Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We appreciate you joining us today. Apologize, we'll get our screen set up and everything, but my name is Jennifer Young, and I'm with the University Credit Union. And today joining me is Marky Johnson. She is one of our mortgage consultants that works up in the Bountiful branch. And we're going to be presenting information today addressing appraisals versus inspections, and just go into some details on that. And just a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions, you can see where you can type them in on your screen. Go ahead and we'll stop periodically throughout the presentation and address those questions. And we'd encourage anything. I mean, if you have questions regarding the appraisals and inspections, or if you have some other appraisals or other questions that we can help with, we would love to help. So just type those in and we'll try and get to those throughout the presentation. Again, the information that we're covering now is appraisals versus inspections. And just so that you have an idea, at the end of this presentation, we're recording this presentation, and at the end of it, we will be sending each of you a link with the recorded version so that if you have questions, you can go back and watch that as many times as you'd like. So I'll flip through my slides. So diving right in, appraisals establish value. An inspection, we get asked this question a lot, which one do I need? An inspection establishes the condition of your home. So an appraiser is going to go in and they're going to inspect your property, and they're going to determine that property value based on market conditions, other comparables, the property condition. But an inspector is going to go in and establish the overall condition of your home. They're going to inspect every ounce of the home, every inch. They're going to go through systems, electrical, plumbing. They're going to check everything. And if there are things, they're going to climb on your roof and make sure that your roof is good. They're going to inspect everything to make sure what the condition is. And if there are things that look like maybe they're wearing out or need attention, they're going to address those in an inspection report. So each one is a different report, and how do you determine which one you need? And we look at that, and we're going to give you some tips on what they cover and what they help with, and maybe answer this question for you of how do you determine which one you need?
So a lot of people think they only need an inspection when they're buying a home. When you're selling a home, doing an inspection beforehand can help in a lot of ways. It'll make the process a lot smoother and help you avoid problems that may come up if there's little things that you can fix beforehand, or it can tell you if there's major things that you either need to fix, or you can expect someone to either offer you less, or if they ask you to fix it, it can help you prepare for that. It will help the agent and seller more accurately price the home if you know of issues, or if you know you've taken care of issues, you may be able to get more money out of the home, and it will help you market the home better. It can help make you more trustworthy if you're being upfront. If you do know about problems that you don't want to take care of beforehand, you can let the buyer know about them, and it'll help you in all of those ways.
And if you're a buyer to go into a home, you want to make sure that you do have an inspection that helps you find out about the home, detect equipment problems. If the furnace is, 30 years old and you know that it's going to be an upcoming issue, this will help you detect some of those problems. It also helps you just know the safety of the home, making sure that if there are issues with paint, or if there are issues with windows, if, just identifying issues that might help you increase the overall safety of the home if they're addressed beforehand. It also gives you a peace of mind, and there are no surprises. You know exactly what you're getting. If you have an inspection, you're able to know of all of the details, especially paying for an inspection that's going to be more in detail. There are some inspections that are just surface inspections. They just look at the overall aesthetics of the home. But if you really pay for an in-depth inspection, you're going to know exactly what you're getting. And over the life of owning a home, those inspections can really pay for themselves in savings, because if you identify some things and are able to work with the seller to take care of those, that inspection really can pay for itself. And again, it gives you that added peace of mind and confidence in knowing what you're getting. It really helps you if you can also know some of the things that might be upcoming to plan ahead. It gives you an idea of maybe the furnace is working great, or maybe the air conditioning is working great, but it's maybe 15 years and you know that at 20 years it might need some attention. It'll help you to go ahead and plan ahead for those expenses and upcoming things. Again, overall, the inspection just helps you, give you peace of mind and knowledge, knowing that you know exactly what you're getting.
All right, establishing a value. When do you need an appraisal? A lot of people know that they need an appraisal done when they purchase a home, but a common misconception is that they don't need one if they're refinancing, or they don't need one if they're doing a second mortgage or home equity line of credit. On most refinance transactions, we do require an appraisal, and we may or may not need one on a home equity line of credit or a second mortgage. That's something that we can help tell you if we anticipate that we'll need one or not. Another case when you may need an appraisal is if you want to have private mortgage insurance removed. If you purchase a home and you put less than 20% down, you'll have to pay private mortgage insurance. But when you get to a point that you've gained a lot of equity, maybe you've made improvements, or maybe the market has improved, you can have an appraisal done with, at least with our credit, you can have an appraisal done to remove that private mortgage insurance once you do have 20% equity. Who orders the appraisal? Typically, the lender will order the appraisal. Going through our process, we do require it to be done by one of our approved appraisers, so it can save you money if you let us order that for you. If you have one done on your own, we may not be able to use that. Now, what does an appraisal tell you? It will tell you the current market value of the home based on recent comparable sales. Comparable sales, they look at homes that are like yours, similar floor plans, similar square footage. You know, a lot of people say, oh, my neighbor down the street sold their home for X amount, so I'll be able to sell mine for that. That's not always the case if their home isn't similar enough to yours. So the appraiser will go through those comparable sales. They go through every little detail, the condition of the home, like I said, square footage, how many bedrooms, how many baths, upgrades, and quality of things. They'll take all of that into consideration, and the appraiser will make adjustments accordingly. If your lot's a little bit bigger, they may adjust for that. Or, you know, if you have one less bathroom, they'll adjust for that. And it goes into all of those details.
Okay, we're going to pause for just a minute, and I'm going to have James, who's helping us out today, just to check to see if we've got any questions. And the answer is no, we don't. So we can move forward. Just again, if you have questions, we're going to make sure that you type those in, and we'll go ahead and address those. So what responsibility does an appraiser have? We get asked from time to time, what does the appraiser really do, and who do they really answer to? And the answer is they have a responsibility to us as a lender to report to us values based on the analysis of all of that information. Just like Marky addressed, the appraiser is going to go through and look at current market data. They're going to look at recent sales. They're going to look at what activities have happened on the market. Have there been foreclosures, or have there been lots of purchases? And they're also going to look at values based on the improvements that are in the home that we're appraising. And so if you come to us and we're appraising your home, we're going to try and find homes that are similar in that, like Marky addressed, similar finishes, similar square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms. If you have a 2-story home, we're going to try and stay away from comparing it to a 1-story home. We want to make sure that it is very similar in configuration, in style, in finishes, and then they're going to go through and they're going to do an evaluation based off of that and compare. They're going to add and subtract for each little thing. If you're on a bigger piece of property than another home that they're using as comparable, then they'll give you the benefit of that additional value of that property. If your home perhaps is a little bit smaller square footage than a comparable home, they'll make those adjustments. And then overall, they come to an actual value that is represented. And we get asked a lot when somebody comes in and they're doing a purchase transaction. The appraisers, usually the comment that we get is, oh, the appraiser's always going to appraise it for what the purchase price is. And that actually isn't always the case. We have seen appraisals in this market come much higher than what the purchase price is, and we've actually seen the values come in much lower than what the purchase price is. Again, the appraiser has a responsibility and an accountability to use the values that have actually hit the market, not hearsay, not, oh yeah, the person down, I think the person down the street sold their house. They actually have to have closed sales that have actually occurred on the market, not listings, not private transactions. Sometimes those cash transactions don't ever come into play for an appraiser because they don't ever really, they're not recorded onto the market because there's no deed involved because it's cash. So there's really a lot of pressure on the appraiser to make sure that they cover actual closed sales and analyze that information to establish that market. So they do really have a lot of pressure on them to perform. So what adds value to a home? We get asked a lot. People will come in and say, we want to do this. How much is it going to add to the value of our home? And I would love to
it's $1 million question.
I know. I would love to tell you that every time you spent any money on your home that you were going to recoup dollar for dollar in value, but that just simply isn't the case. The biggest thing before starting a project on your home, what we would suggest is do your research. Research what the surrounding values are. Research if you're planning on doing, additional landscaping and you've maybe been on the lower end of finishes and you really want to put a lot of money into landscaping. Look around in the area that you live and see, is that what people are doing and what are the values of their home? Are their values higher than what yours is based on that landscaping? If so, you might be able to recapture some of the expense. Dollar for dollar, usually not. Typically, you don't recoup dollar for dollar on what you do. What you typically get is what you want, how you want it, where you want it. And for that, it's a cost. So not always does it add value to your home. And so with any major addition or remodel, I would say do your homework, search the area, make sure to see what the surrounding values are to determine whether or not you're going to recapture some of that expense that you're putting into your home. And that covers pretty much everything, right? That covers landscaping, kitchen, bathrooms.
Yeah, and I think, on basements, anything below grade is typically going to get you less return. So that's something to keep in mind. It's just not worth as much as your above grade levels. So keep that in mind when finishing basements. You're not going to recoup as much of the cost on those. I think solar panels are another tricky one. Talking to appraisers recently, solar panels are becoming a lot more common. But that is a tricky one because there may not be many comparables that have them. So it's hard to add a lot of value if there's not really comparables that have sold recently. So just keep those things in mind when looking at doing these upgrades.
That's one of the bigger questions that we've received over the past couple of years with solar panels is we've gotten an estimate and solar panels are going to give us, they're going to cost us $35,000. And they're telling us that it'll add $35,000 value to our home. And it doesn't work that way.
I think eventually maybe, once they are more common, but right now it is a little bit hard because there's not as many comparables that have those. So I don't think it's going to add,
It's just hard. You just have to look at your surrounding area and you have to see if the surrounding values are adding value to that, if they're recognizing and if they're recouping value for that or if they're not.
Definitely. So, that is the key.
And there are some things on here that adding the value to your home. There are some things on here that simply are an added value if you're looking at selling or if you're looking at buying. For instance, the windows and roofing, those are two big things that, roofing can cost anywhere from $8,000 to, $18,000 to roof a home. And that's something that is an added value when you're a shopper, a consumer going to look for a home that already has a new roof on it. You certainly look at that as an added value. So some of these are added values just overall for the age of the homes, and others you can put a lot of money into it and maybe not recoup it, but you get what you want, where you want it, how you want it.
Definitely.
So, okay, we're going to move on. So how do you prepare for an appraiser or an inspector. From time to time, we get questions on this, and this is just kind of an overall suggestion. If you can prepare for that meeting, for that inspection, or for that visit, if you can prepare a list of improvements that you've done to the home. So if you've gone through and recently upgraded bathrooms or flooring or insulation or windows or roofing or any of those things, it would be really helpful if you could put together a list of improvements. Second, make sure and prepare the home. Make sure that you clean it, that it's accessible. Make sure that they have clear access to all areas of the home. They are going to want to see. This is one of those that's really hard for most women. It was for me. I've had my home appraised many times, and it was really hard because they open every door. Like seriously, every closet, every cabinet, they want to see every area. So they're going to look in your cabinets, ladies. They're going to look in your closets. They're going to look. They may not look under your bed, so that might be a good area to hide things. But they are going to look everywhere in the home. So make sure that they have clear access to that. If there are doors that are blocked by boxes or whatever, they're going to ask you to move them. They're going to shuffle them. They're not only going to inspect it, but they're also going to measure. And so that's another reason that they need to have clear access. So hopefully that tells you what do they need to see. And then what can the homeowner do to help? Be accessible, walk around with them, answer questions, make sure that if they have questions, try and have the information as readily accessible and know the answers to the questions. Know your home, know what you've done, what hasn't been done, if there's been issues, if there hasn't been issues, make sure that you're there to discuss and walk through. And that includes not only the inside of the home, but around the exterior part of the home. Make sure that you know the proper question or the answers to systems that work outside the home. So if you have air conditioning units that are mounted outside the home or up on the roof, make sure that you can answer questions regarding sprinkling systems and so on. The list goes on, but just make sure that you walk around with the appraiser inspector and can answer questions specific to the property.
Does the type of loan affect the appraisal? Definitely. On a HELOC or second mortgage type loan, we may or may not need an appraisal. That may be a full appraisal or maybe just a desktop appraisal or no appraisal at all. If the loan amount is lower and it's not a high risk, we may just be able to use the value that the county assesses your home at. That's something that is determined case by case. On a cash out refinance, typically we will need a full appraisal, same with an FHA or VA purchase. Some refinances we may or may not need. That's something that we can advise. Once we run an application for you, we'll have a better idea, and the underwriter will determine what type of appraisal, if one is needed. One thing that's not on here are construction loans. Those appraisals are a little bit different. We get a full copy of your plans and specs and the cost breakdown. So either what you're adding to the home or if you're building from scratch, we get a breakdown of the cost and all the materials that are going into it. And all of that is sent to the appraiser so that they can determine a future value of the home, and they take all of that into consideration. So those are a few different types, but that's definitely, it can change which type you need based on the loan type you're looking for.
Okay, I'm going to have James check again one more time. Sorry about the screen thing. We can't quite figure out the screen thing, but just making sure that we've got any other questions. And there is a question, so can I have you? Lots of questions. See, I knew we had questions. Thank you. So we'll hurry and pause for just a minute, and I apologize for the screen. We're still figuring out the details on this. So if an inspection has been ordered by a seller, or if the seller obligated, is the seller obligated to state all of the findings on the seller disclosure statement? They are, yes, Pat, that's a great question, and thank you. The seller is obligated, if you've seen a seller disclosure statement, it's about 7 or 8 pages long, and they are required to address the findings, the things that they know about. And so if a seller has ordered an inspection and are informed about their home and they know about certain things, they are required to provide that information in the seller disclosure statement. So that's a really good question. Thank you, Pat. Next question. We live in an older home where we've upgraded all of the plumbing, including water main and sewer main. Ooh, lucky you. Are these upgrades included in the value of the home during the appraisal, or are they viewed as standard basic home features? In other words, should we expect to recoup the cost of upgrading standard features when we sell the home? That is, you know what, that is a really good question, Jeff. A lot of those things, and you go on to ask, does the appraiser take into account upgrading features of this nature? Yes, they do. The appraiser really goes through that home with a fine-tooth comb, and they will address those things. Is it something that you're going to recoup dollar for dollar? Probably not, but you might in the overall condition of the home. What you're doing is you're taking a home from, they rate the homes in condition levels, and you might take it from one level of condition to an upgraded, because if it's an older home and you have those older systems, some people haven't upgraded that, so they might be in a C4 condition, where if you do this, it might bring it to a C3 or a C2 condition. I don't know that you'll recoup dollar for dollar, but overall, it really depends on the area. If you're in an area where there are a lot of older homes and the older homes don't have those things upgraded, it comes down to market and what's going on in your surrounding area, but you have a good chance of recouping some of those expenses, but maybe not dollar for dollar. But that is a really good question, because you're right, it is just a standard basic home feature to have plumbing and sewer and those types of things. It just stinks when it falls on you to upgrade all of those expenses. Those are expensive. So, but thank you, Jeff. That's a really good question. Okay, next question. What is an average cost of home inspection in the Salt Lake area? Will an inspection yield similar results regardless of the request, the inspection of a buyer or seller? Will the inspector, in essence, will the buyer or the seller get the same kind of results on an inspection? And I'm going to have Marky answer this, because that's a really good question.
So I would say the average cost that I've seen maybe around $500 or so, and that would be for a very thorough inspection. I think you can do less thorough inspections for probably less, but I would plan on about 500 or so. And we do not require inspections, but we do highly recommend them. I would say that the inspection would yield the same results regardless of who orders it, because it is a thorough home inspection, and it wouldn't matter. You want to know every detail of everything about the home, and that inspection is going to give you all of those details regardless if you're the seller or the buyer. That would not change those results.
That's a really good question too.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're going to move forward. Thank you. Those are great questions, and I appreciate you sharing those questions. So this is probably the number one question that we get asked is, should I remodel or should I sell? And really what this comes down to is, number one, how much do you love where you're at? Because homeownership needs to be a pride thing. You need to love and a love thing. You need to love where you live. And if you simply don't love where you live, then maybe it is time to find a home with the upgrades that you want or in an area that you want to be. But as far as addressing, should you spend the money to upgrade those things in your home if you love the area, then again, it comes back to doing your research, checking out the area, knowing what is going to add value or what is going to add to the overall aesthetic and pleasingness of the home to you. If you just simply, sometimes the answer is just simply you want to stay there and you really don't care. And we do have a lot of people that do that. We have a lot of people that come to us and say, I really don't care if it's not going to add the value. I want to upgrade this and this and this, and I want to stay here, and I know I'm over improving, and that's just fine with me. And if that's the case, then that's great. But you just need to know going in, if you want to upgrade, number one thing, check the market around you, check to see what's adding values, check to see what can help. And second to that, if you don't love where you live, then don't spend the money. Don't upgrade it, move to somewhere, find something that makes you happy.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, if we are doing a construction loan, like I mentioned before, if you're either gutting and remodeling, or if you're building on, we will do an appraisal based on what the home will be worth. And so you'll know what you're going to recoup or what you're not going to recoup before starting your project. So if you're really worried about recouping or, overbuilding, you can tweak things after you get that appraisal done. It's very important that we get a copy of the changes that you make so that we can have the appraisal updated, whether you go with lower end finishes and change those types of things, but you would be able to tweak that. So if you're worried about recouping and overbuilding, you could look at that once the appraisal is done.
That's a good point.
Why us? I could go on all day about why use the credit union. Our staff is so amazing. We will sit down with you and go over your situation, and we're not going to push you into something that is not going to be good for you or something that you don't want. We will look at your whole financial picture. We want to make sure that the loan that you take out and the debt that you take out now will work for you tomorrow and a year from now, 2 years from now. We look at the future with you to see what you want and what your long-term goals are. We are local to Utah and loyal to you. We have in-house originating, processing, and underwriting. We don't ship anything out, so you can call us directly. The mortgage consultant that you start with will be your main point of contact throughout the entire process, which is huge. A lot of mortgage companies, you start with one person and you're passed from person to person, and that's frustrating. So we do have the personalized service. We have automated updates that will send you throughout the process that tell you when we've completed steps and keep you informed. And we'll do everything that we can to earn your trust. We are open books. We are transparent. We want you to feel confident about what you're doing and what your future looks like.
Okay. I know y'all know where to find us, so here's just a reminder. If you do have questions, reach out to us at this main number, this 801-481-8840. That number rings at the desk of each one of our mortgage consultants. And I know that you know where to find us at theucreditu.com, but this is just a reminder. And if these locations are not convenient, we are not stuck in these locations.
Yeah.
You let us know where you would like to meet, and we will meet you there. Whether it's at any one of the branches, we've even visited with members at their offices. So
yeah,
just make sure and reach out to us if you have questions. And we're going to go back to the questions one more time and see if there's any additional questions. And see, those are good questions. Let's see, Taylor, you have a question. Is a kitchen facelift in this marketplace as valuable as a kitchen remodel? You know what? That is a great question. Thanks, Taylor. It really depends, again, to the comparables. I would say that a kitchen facelift is a great option if you don't have the money to do a total kitchen remodel, because it will be looked at as an upgrade, as an update from the appraiser, and the appraiser is going to give you additional value for that. Again, it comes down to what the current surrounding areas are, but it certainly gives an update over something that might be dated and old. It gives you an extra lift and an extra value from that. So hopefully that answers that. That's a really good question, though. And it doesn't look like we have any other questions. We're going to wait for just a few minutes and see if there's any other questions. But just a reminder, if you guys have questions going forward, reach out to us. You can email us. You can find us like you found us on the web. You can find our details on there, so you can reach out to us on the email that way if you do have questions, and we'll help you with anything. Just before we go, and while I'm waiting to see if there's any other questions, I just want to let you know, this is just a reminder, we are a full service lender, and so whether it's a conventional loan, an FHA, VA, whether it's for a purchase or refinance, whether you're a first-time home buyer, if you're a first-time home buyer, we have a fantastic first-time home buyer program with a no down payment. You're able to finance 100% of the purchase price, and if you can save up your closing costs or maybe get a gift for the closing costs, you only have to have $1,500 into that transaction. So $1,500 of your own money to cover some of the costs, and then ask the seller for closing costs or get a gift for the rest. There are just some really great programs that we offer, and so we're really excited we've tried to really broaden our options available to you and get programs that would be really helpful. Okay, we don't really have any more questions. Marky, do you have anything else to add?
I don't.
Okay, we appreciate you so much joining us. Have a fantastic day, and we will see you back here this afternoon at 2:30 for our 2:30 webinar. Thanks so much.